Hola, estudiantes. Today we're continuing in Unit 7 and we're going to talk about los deportes, sports. Unidad 7, los deportes. So today you should have either printed or opened the new vocab page for Unit 7. And we are going to cover two sections of this vocab page today. We're going to cover the section on just los deportes, and then specifically the section on el fútbol. So hopefully you have your vocab page handy or a separate piece of paper, and we'll take time to write these vocabulary words down. But before we jump into the vocab, I just want to talk a little bit more specifically about one verb. It's the verb jugar, which means to play. Jugar is a stem-changing verb, so that means the stem part of the verb you changes to ue in 5 of the forms. And if you remember from before, we nicknamed these verbs boot verbs or shoe verbs, because if you draw a shape around the places where the stem change happens, the U to UE, it kind of looks like a shoe or a boot. So this verb will be spelled yo juego, for I play, tú juegas, you play, usted, él, and ella juega, nosotros jugamos. There's no stem change in that one because that one is not in the boot shape that you draw on the chart. Ustedes, ellos, and ellas juegan. Again, this is the verb jugar, and since we're talking about playing sports, this verb you will see a lot in this unit. Again, this is the verb jugar, to play, when you're talking about playing a sport or a game. It's not about the verb to play an instrument. So on the first section on this vocab page, you have the word el fútbol, and el fútbol is the word for soccer. So if you hear a native speaker of Spanish talk about fútbol, they are referring to the game of soccer. El fútbol americano is the word for football, as we call it in the United States. El béisbol is a cognate, and it's the word that Spanish speakers use for baseball. Baloncesto is the word for basketball. Some speakers of Spanish will also call it basketball, but I want you to learn the word baloncesto right now. El golf, obviously a cognate for golf. El voleibol, again a cognate for volleyball. That's the way a Spanish speaker would hear it and spell it and say it, voleibol. El tenis, obviously a cognate for tennis. El ciclismo is the word for cycling. Montar means to ride, as in to ride a bicycle. Montar en bicicleta. La natación is the word for swimming. And the verb that goes along with la natación is nadar, which means to swim. El esquí is the verb, or is the sport of skiing. El esquí acuático would be water skiing. And you could also refer to snow skiing if you wanted to say el esquí en la nieve. The verb esquiar means to ski. El hockey is the word for hockey, obviously a cognate and probably a borrowed word into Spanish. Patinar is the word that means to skate. So whether you're playing the sport hockey or you're just skating on the ice, patinar is the verb that you would use. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about el fútbol, or as Spanish speakers call it, or as we call it, soccer in the United States. El jugador is the word for the player. If it were a female player, it would be la jugadora. And this could be for any sport. Baseball, voleibol, baloncesto, any sport. All sports will have el jugador, the player. La persona que juega es el jugador. El equipo. El equipo is the word for team. So don't confuse this and think that this means equipment, because it does not refer to the equipment that the team might use. It actually refers to the team. El equipo. Hay 11 jugadores en el equipo de fútbol. If you are not aware of some of the rules or of playing the game of soccer, this is one of the rules that you need to know, that there are 11 players on a football or soccer team. El partido. El partido is the game. Hay 2 tiempos de 45 minutos en el partido de fútbol. There are 2 time periods or 2 halves of 45 minutes each in the game of soccer. En el partido de fútbol, los jugadores no pueden tocar el balón con las manos. So one of the rules of soccer is that you can't touch the ball with your hands, except if you are the goalie or you are throwing the ball in from out of bounds. El estadio. El estadio is a cognate for the word stadium. El campo is the word that they use for the field. This is a word you've seen before when we talked about el campo being a geographic feature as in the countryside. Juegan el fútbol en el campo de fútbol. They play soccer on a soccer field. Dos equipos juegan en el campo de fútbol. So obviously there are 2 teams on the field at one time playing the game of soccer. Los espectadores. Los espectadores. That's the word in Spanish for spectators. Try saying that one more time. Los espectadores. Los espectadores. Los espectadores miran el partido en el estadio. Spectators watch the game in the stadium. El balón. The ball. El balón looks a little bit like our word balloon, and maybe that's because this particular ball is filled with air. La portería. La portería is the word for the goal. That's the big net at each end of the field. La portera is the goalie. If it were a male, it would be el portero. La portera guarda la portería. The goalie guards the goal. Please try not to confuse the 2 words portera and portería. Empatado is the word for tied. And in football, a game can end in a tie if it's not a final game. Un partido de fútbol puede terminar empatado, except for the finals. Marcar un tanto means to score a point in soccer. El jugador marca un tanto cuando el balón entra en la portería. So you score a point in soccer when the ball goes into the goal. So that's all for this section of your vocab page, and we'll finish the vocab page up on Thursday. I'll talk to you again soon. Adios.